As you can see, using the past tense for these ER verbs really is quite simple. As I've mentioned already, around 90% of verbs in French end in ER. And in the past tense, they're incredibly easy to use because the ER is simply replaced by a café-e. And the café-e sounds exactly the same as the ER. So, to prepare would be
préparer,
and prepared would be
préparer,
to reserve would be
réserver,
and reserved.
réserver,
To buy would be
acheter,
and bought would be.
acheter,
To eat would be
manger,
and eaten would be.
manger.
If you understand this basic principle, it means that you can already use 90% of the verbs in French in the past tense. And you've already learnt several of those, such as to keep,
Garder,
to stay,
rester,
to visit,
visiter,
to camp,
camper,
to desire.
désirer,
And these all work in the same way in the past tense. Very easy to use, very easy for you to speak and switch tenses. However, as we've already mentioned, it is still only 90% of the verbs that end in this way. There is another 10% left. One of the ones we've already looked at is to sell, which is
vendre,
more or less meaning to vend. This ends in re. And a lot of the verbs which end in re, in the past tense, they replace that re with that sound we've started to get familiar with. It's the U sound, which again you make by rounding your lips and saying E, but at the same time as keeping your lips rounded. So, again, let's have a practice with that. Let's make the special sound. It should come out as
U, U.
So, getting rid of the re at the end of
Vendre,
what will we end up with once we've replaced it with the new sound?
vendu,
Let's try that with to see. We already know already seen in English. Let's try pronouncing that correctly. Again, we normally in English say déjà vu. How would you say that correctly in French?
déjà vu,
Again, that same U sound is on the end, rather than a normal U that we would say in English. Let's try another one. What is to wait?
attendre,
And so again, getting rid of the re at the end, the r from the sandre ending. Let's get rid of that and replace it with the U sound. And what do we get for waited?
attendu,
So, how would you say, I have waited?
j'ai attendu,
He has waited.
il a attendu,
She has waited.
elle a attendu,
You have waited.
vous avez attendu,
You have sold.
vous avez vendu,
You have sold it.
vous l'avez vendu.
Again, do remember that if there's a have in the sentence, it always steals the pronoun and puts it directly in front of itself. How would you say, we have sold it?
Nous l'avons vendu.
How about, we haven't sold it?
Nous ne l'avons pas vendu.
Again, when making a negative, make sure to make that full sandwich. Let's try that again, just to make sure we've got it. So, what is we have?
Nous avons.
And we have it.
Nous l'avons.
Again, note, once we have the it stolen by the have and put in front of itself, you can no longer push the S from nous onto the A from avant. So, we have on its own is, of course,
Nous avons.
but once we put the it in there, it becomes.
Nous l'avons.
So how would you say we have sold it?
Nous l'avons vendu.
And without the sold, again, just we have it.
Nous l'avons.
Now we don't have it.
Nous ne l'avons pas.
Now, finally, adding the sold, the vendu again, how would you say we haven't sold it?
Nous ne l'avons pas vendu.
How would you say we have waited?
Nous avons attendu.
How about we have waited for you?
Nous vous avons attendu.
So, again, to wait in French is,
Attendre.
but you can't wait for someone in French. So, you don't say attendu pour vous, but you say for we have waited for you, we say
Nous vous avons attendu.
because again, have steals the pronoun, steals the proxy noun, and puts it in front of itself. Literally, it's far more like we have awaited you. How would you say we have waited for it?
Nous l'avons attendu.
We haven't waited for it.
Nous ne l'avons pas attendu.
Of course, in anything, there's probably going to be the occasional exception. Let's look at to understand. What was to understand?
Comprendre.
Now, following the logic of what we've been doing so far, what should understood be? So changing comprendre into the past, what should it be? You would be expecting it should be comprendu. However, to understand in French is very irregular, and it does not become comprendu. This is not something to worry about terribly, because if you made the mistake and to say something like, we have understood in French, if you accidentally said,
Nous avons comprendu.
you'd probably be understood. I expect the French person would give a little smile, and they might come back and repeat it correctly to you. They might say something like, oh, you've understood, and saying it correctly they would say,
Vous avez compris.
because to understand, which is
Comprendre.
in the past, becomes
Compris.
spelt C-O-M-P-R-I-S. Now, you may be familiar with this if you've eaten out in a French-speaking country a lot, because compris can also be used not only to mean understood, but to mean included. It's as though something is comprised. So you may see something in a menu that says something like, the service is compris, the service is included. And this is used quite a lot, so it's like saying the service is understood. There are a few of these DRE verbs in French that do this. There aren't many. It's not something to worry about hugely, because again, if you do make a mistake, but you've changed it in the normal regular way, you'll be understood in French, and you're likely to get some feedback. It's like in the English, for instance, if someone said to you, instead of, yes, I have understood, they said, yes, I have understanded what you said. It sounds funny, but it's a very good way to get feedback from the person you're speaking to, who will say, oh, you've understood. So don't worry about it too much, and also keep in mind that here you'll be learning the key exceptions anyway. So again, what is to understand?
Comprendre.
But understood is?
Compris.
How would you say, I have understood?
J'ai compris.
You have understood, formal.
Vous avez compris.
How would you say you have understood me?
Vous m'avez compris.
Again, have has stolen the pronoun and put it in front of itself. Vous me avez compris, but the me, of course, ends in an E, and so we have another abbreviation here. It becomes M apostrophe avez. So, you have understood me will be pronounced as
Vous m'avez compris.
So again, when you first hear it, if you're not familiar with these abbreviations, you might wonder what MAVE is. But of course, it's just an abbreviation. So one more time. What would you have understood me be?
Vous m'avez compris.
How about you haven't understood me?
Vous ne m'avez pas compris.
Is it that you haven't understood me?
Est-ce que vous ne m'avez pas compris?
Why is it that you haven't understood me?
Pourquoi est-ce que vous ne m'avez pas compris?
So again, what is to understand?
Comprendre.
What about to take?
Prendre.
And the past tense of to understand, understood, what was that?
Compris.
So, as to understand, which is
Comprendre.
and to take, which is
Prendre.
are very similar, they're going to change the same way in the past. So again, to understand in the past, understood is
Compris.
and so therefore what will prendre be? What will that be in the past?
Pris.
It sort of follows logically. After all, prendre is part of comprendre, and as comprendre in the past becomes
Compris.
therefore prendre will become
Pris.
So, how would you say I have taken?
J'ai pris.
He has taken.
Il a pris.
She has taken.
Elle a pris.
You informal have taken.
Tu as pris.
You formal have taken.
Vous avez pris.
We have taken.
Nous avons pris.
They have taken.
Ils ont pris.
They, an entirely female group, have taken.
Elles ont pris.
They, a mixed group, have taken it.
Ils l'ont pris.
Again, have steals the pronoun. They haven't taken it.
Ils ne l'ont pas pris.
They haven't understood it.
Ils ne l'ont pas compris.
However, these types of exception for to understand or to take are few and far between. Most of them will follow the other pattern. So again, what was to sell
Vendre.
and sold?
Vendu.
So that unique French vowel sound at the end is the typical way to change those verbs into the past. To see.
Voir.
And the past tense of see is
Vu.
as in, of course, already seen, which is
Déjà vu.
how would you say you have already seen?
Vous avez déjà vu?
Because, of course, déjà vu literally means, or déjà vu literally means already seen. You have already seen it.
Vous l'avez déjà vu.
Have you already seen it? Is it that you've already seen it?
Est-ce que vous l'avez déjà vu?
So again, as you can see, these terms that are in English can be used very easily in French to increase your range of expression. So remind me, what is I can in French? I can.
Je peux.
And what's to understand?
Comprendre.
How would you say I can understand?
Je peux comprendre.
What was to understand it?
Le comprendre.
So I can understand it.
Je peux le comprendre.
What is to eat?
Manger.
I can eat.
Je peux manger.
I can eat it.
Je peux le manger.
So, as you can see, to eat it is,
Le manger.
and I can eat it, as you said, was.
Je peux le manger.
How about going back in the past tense for a moment? I have eaten,
J'ai mangé.
and I have eaten it.
Je l'ai mangé.
So, you can see that there is a difference when you're using have and when it's not present. Normally, to eat it will be,
Le manger.
but when you say I have eaten it, the word for it is not put in front of manger for eaten, instead it's stolen by the have and placed directly in front of it. Let's try that again. What is you can, informal?
Tu peux.
You can eat it.
Tu peux le manger.
He can eat it.
Il peut le manger.
She can eat it.
Elle peut le manger.
How about you formal can eat it?
Vous pouvez le manger.
Again, the forms for you and we are quite different than for the I, he, she can. So, again, what was you formal can?
Vous pouvez.
And we can.
Nous pouvons.
So again, you formal can eat it.
Vous pouvez le manger.
But you have eaten it.
Vous l'avez mangé.
You see, again, your instinct might be after that to say something like vous avez le mangé. But you must remember, if there is a have in the sentence, any type of have steals the pronouns, steals the proxy nouns, and puts them directly in front of itself. So again, correctly you will say,
Vous l'avez mangé.
literally it's vous le avez mangé. But of course, the le and the ave, le ends with an e, a vowel, and ave begins with an a, also a vowel, so there's an abbreviation, L apostrophe ave. So have it sounds like,
Laver.
but obviously it's not a new word, it's just have it. How would you say you have understood it?
Vous l'avez compris.
You can understand it.
Vous pouvez le comprendre.
Again, make sure that you've changed back to understand rather than understood. It's very easy to want to say something like vous pouvez compris, but that would be you can understood. So again, what is to understand?
Comprendre.
To understand it.
Le comprendre.
You can understand it.
Vous pouvez le comprendre.
You can understand me.
Vous pouvez me comprendre.
You can't understand me.
Vous ne pouvez pas me comprendre.
Again, let's have one more turn at building that up. You can is
Vous pouvez.
you can understand.
Vous pouvez comprendre.
You can understand me.
Vous pouvez me comprendre.
So again, to understand is
Comprendre.
to understand me.
me comprendre,
and you can understand me,
vous pouvez me comprendre.
and finally, you can't understand me.
Vous ne pouvez pas me comprendre.
Now let's turn that into a negative question and say, can't you understand me? Is it that you cannot understand me?
Est-ce que vous ne pouvez pas me comprendre? Est-ce que vous ne pouvez pas me comprendre?
So of course, to understand me remains as,
Me comprendre.
and of course you've simply made it negative by saying, you can't understand me, and then, is it that you can't understand me? Finally, let's add why to the front and say, why is it that you can't understand me? Let's just start with, why is it that?
Pourquoi est-ce que
You cannot understand me.
vous ne pouvez pas me comprendre?
And all together now, why is it that you can't understand me?
Pourquoi est-ce que vous ne pouvez pas me comprendre?